Good evening and welcome to the Monday, April 28th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Committee. Go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Emma Fullwilder. Present. And Commissioner Kelsey Leto is excused. And Commissioner Ken Rubinsky is absent so far. Okay. All right, approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the Monday, April 28th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to the approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes from the April 7th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Fullwilder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then moving on to regular business, item number 1. Consideration with possible action on the request to vacate an alley between North Broadway and Alma Street, submitted by Community and Economic Development Department, NEW Community Shelter, Inc., Greg Krumholz, and Eduardo Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Down here. So this particular request deals with an alley vacation that's located between Mather Street on the south and James Street on the east, or on the north, running from North Broadway to Alma. So the area that you can see in the red hash mark. Okay, we're fine, we're good. Okay, moving along. Okay, so the future land use of this area is industrial. And then we have some residential that is to the east. Oh my goodness. And then for the zoning, the area that surrounds the street vacation is zoned R3 multifamily. And then the areas to the east have a planning of development and some single family residential, multifamily to the north, industrial to the east. So this request has been brought forward by NEW Community Shelter, Greg Krumholz and Eduardo Martinez. They are the folks that own the property that have bought the alley. They're requesting that this 14-foot wide alley be vacated. When an alley is vacated, the property is split in half and it gets divided equally between the property owners. When we do alley vacations, we do reach out to a variety of agencies to review this. I'm gonna have to talk a little louder here. There's a variety of agencies that we reach out to regarding these matters. So we contact utilities, the fire department, police department to see if they have any comments on the proposal. We did get comments back from Wisconsin Public Service and the Department of Public Works. WPS didn't object to the request, but pointed out the existence of utilities in this area with poles and lines having prescriptive rights. If any changes need to be made down the road, WPS will pursue easements at that time. The Department of Public Works has no objection, but is requesting that utility easements be retained the full width and length of the alley. Parking and driving is okay on the alley, but no buildings would be permitted within the needed right of way. The city would draft and record these easements. There is a project that's proposed by NEW Shelter to construct a new facility. And then the
They can't hear us.
Mr. Krumholz and Mr. Martinez would create a driveway that would then access their parcels because their garages are behind their homes. So then we would just want to see that easement So this was brought forward to our attention through these property owners. We have, we're forwarding it, this vacation of the alley to be found because it's in the best interest of the city. So we feel that in our code, when it comes to access or shared driveways, that there is a requirements in our code that they do have to record an easement
Mhm.
agreement for those new shared
They can't
accesses.
hear us.
So
They can. Hey!
I assume.
can you please mute yourself? Or I can mute him. Anyway, I'll keep going. So we do have some conditions for the approval, which is that there be a shared access and maintenance agreement between parcels 5-72 and 5-73, which must be filed with the Register of Deeds immediately after the recording of the alley vacation. Utility easements be granted to the city of Green Bay at the full width and length of the subject vacated alley by the property owners as requested by DPW. And a no-build easement is recorded within the subject vacated right of way by the property.
Thank you. Move forward with the project that we saw last meeting.
So moved.
Well, I
I
can't.
moved to.
You're
Thank you.
gonna.
With the conditions stated. That's that.
We got a motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then that will go forward to city council. What's the next meeting? May 6th? Tuesday, is that Tuesday, May 6th? Or- Sure.
Get out of
All right, sounds good. All right, moving on to item number 2, and item 2 is a public hearing. And,
Picture the here. All right, this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Gazette. Planning Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information on this matter, as well as your comments or concerns. We also ask you to confine your testimony to the facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Planning Commission in order to speak. Please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes.
And we will now open the public hearing on item number 2. Public hearing on a request for a planned unit development to permit industrial and commercial uses at 2735 University Avenue, submitted by Tanya Wagner of Verbiker on behalf of property owner New Ideal Properties LLC.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property is on the city's east side along University Avenue, at the interchange of I-43. This is the old Tillman site. Tillman Nursery was closed in 2009, and this has been sitting relatively vacant ever since. The parcel in total is about 20 acres. This was part of the University Avenue corridor plan, so it is part of the catalyst sites there. So we'll be discussing that as well as future land use because both are impacted from this. So for the next slide, we have the future land use map, which calls for commercial throughout this area. No surprise since it's University Avenue and off the interchange. And then for the zoning, we have C1 commercial with a little bit of R3 zoning back here. All of this in the north quarter is covered by a PUD, which is part of the veterans housing that's nearby. But again, most of that site is the C1. This is an excerpt from the University Avenue corridor plan. I included more from the plan in your staff report, but this shows kind of what they were hoping for, some sort of commercial entity towards the front. You can see a very large retention pond at the rear to accommodate there are a lot of wetlands that are back there. Very heavy wetland areas towards the rear of this property. So what is being proposed is a 2-lot development that would require a PUD. The idea behind this is that there would be commercial fronting University Avenue as we would want along one of our commercial corridors. But then letting a light industrial use of self-storage be on the rear. Normally, this would give us great pause. We're not very inclined to do mini storage or self-storage along our commercial corridors, especially for a site as prominent as this. However, there are a variety of environmental and infrastructure issues with this site that will go over. So looking here, you can see that this is the proposed 2-lot CSM land division. Lot 1 along University Avenue shows a large area that would be available for commercial. On the right side, top side of this image, you can see there's a small entry drive that would get you back to lot 2. So most of lot 2 would be completely hidden behind lot 1. We have written the variance required for the flag-shaped lot into this PUD, so they would not have to go through that additional process. And the reasoning behind that is that we want lot 2 to be completely hidden, so to just have the drive to access the back is the preferred layout for the types of uses that they're proposing. So on the next slide, you can see the site layout that they're going for. So as you can see, loads of self-storage in the back. What I would like to point out is that little square that's off to like the northeast is going to be maintained for the wetlands there. Again, also to the very rear of the property, all of that is maintained as wetland as well. So you see the self-storage and then some sort of a commercial form with parking along the front. When looking at this, my knee-jerk reaction was no, because it's industrial. So we start going through those environmental things. In the narrative that was attached to your staff report, they gave a very in-depth look into why it is unfeasible for that back parcel to be developed. So not only are there the wetlands, but there is severe grade change on this property. So going from University Avenue to the rear of this lot, there's in total 52 feet of drop. But as you can see here, this is if you're on University Avenue in a car. So already getting to the commercial portion that's right here, you see the top of that building, and then there's a severe grade change here where you get to the very front of where those self-service storage units would be. So from University Avenue, these are basically invisible. In this PUD, you wrote in that there is a requirement for landscape berming here, regardless of what gets installed when. So that way, instead of it being minimally visible, it will be invisible. It's 100% berm requirement here. So that way, if you're on University Avenue and even if nothing gets built here, you won't be able to see this at all. It would be completely invisible and inaccessible outside of that one drive access. Some of the issues that arise with this grade change is the inability to get sanitary sewer back there. So in the years that this has been closed, people have been specking this out. It'll cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a lift station in there for the uses back there. Between that, the wetlands makes the site fairly undevelopable. So we feel like this is the most suitable use to get any sort of a use back there. And this does a good job of also protecting the wetlands that are on this site and then further to the north on the adjacent sites. Excuse me. I think that's all I had for now. Oh, sorry. So for the lot 2 use, which is the self-storage, we have it listed in the PUD that only that would be allowed. No outdoor storage, no other industrial uses, only self-storage is allowed. For lot 2, which is the one that fronts University Avenue, we have it written that any use within our neighborhood commercial would be allowed. That offers a lot of variety when it comes to housing mixes, commercial mixes, but keeps it kind of out of that commercial corridor thing. There aren't any drive-through uses, heavy auto uses. So we have the uses right for a neighborhood commercial, and then the form as the C1, which is that base zoning anyway. So that allows for a little more flexibility in building type, setbacks, that kind of stuff that's more in keeping with the rest of the corridor. So that is all I have for now.
All right, with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
I live right across the street from this
I'm
lot.
sorry. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Oh yeah, sorry. Lauren Messerschmidt, 2760 St. Anthony Drive.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say I live right like directly across from it. Like I'm looking at it right now. I do kind of like how it's kind of like naturey over there, and I know some of like my neighbors do as well. Um, and like we've seen like wildlife over there and everything, and heard it as well. So I kind of like the idea of like a little bit of commercialness, but I don't know, the storage unit idea is kind of interesting because I don't know, I just kind of like the natural looking, but if it wouldn't be seen from, in my opinion, seen from University Avenue, then I think like that could be cool, or but yeah, I just like the naturalness from someone who like lives directly across from it. That's just giving my input a little bit.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? State you can come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Terry Borzik. I live at 2825 University. I am not opposed to the storage units, especially as she suggested they would be completely hidden from University. I was wondering if there would be any fencing around it because my backyard goes probably back as far as that lot does. And I just wonder, people wandering around back there, I know it's wetlands that far back for me, but I just don't want people wandering around back there. And the other thing is the building in the front. What is, you said no apartment buildings, or it'd be more commercial?
This is a public hearing. You can certainly question, as questions will not be answered during.
Oh, okay. I just hope it's not more apartment buildings. I think we have enough in that corridor right down there, but businesses like a strip mall or such would be welcome. Some sort of business. Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone looking to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item number 3. Consideration with possible action on a request for a planned unit development to permit industrial and commercial uses at 2735 University Avenue, submitted by Tanya Wagner of Verbiker on behalf of property owner New Ideal Properties LLC.
Thank you. So I looked at their proposed site plan and it does not show any fencing around the edges that I can see, but it does show a landscaping for here that is not right at the view. So we can write that in if we want to make sure that that is what ends up there, or we could put a requirement for fencing if we feel that's appropriate. Generally speaking, in our light industrial zoning districts, a lot of them have the fencing requirement for most of the uses because there's also outdoor storage associated with that. There isn't here, but definitely doable. Concerning the front lot, right now, the neighborhood commercial district would allow for multifamily, a mixed use, or commercials. I think planning staff would definitely prefer to see something mixed use, but I think any of those uses would be appropriate there. We have a section in here that does have prohibited uses, so if we wanted to add anything to that, we could, but planning staff definitely feels that there is a good chance for a mix of commercial and residential in this area. And yes, I believe that natural looking is better too, so I'm really glad that we're gonna be able to install the landscaping berm and then keep most of that wetland area protected off the area. I think that's it. So our recommendation is for approval, subject to our draft PUD, which was in your packet. With the requirement that the land division is recorded as part of this PUD ordinance. We do have the land descriptions for each of those parcels within the PUD to make sure that gets accomplished.
All right, thank you.
Just to put on the record, Commissioner Levinsky is now. No landscape berm requirement, that's not a condition.
The berm that we are requiring is between lot 1 and lot 2, so along the along with the long side. So there is no visibility between that. They're showing another landscape berm along that northeast edge, but that is not written into here as a requirement. It can be. I mean, they're showing it, so we might as well take advantage of it, so.
There's a lot of pretty old growth trees, it looks like right on, I can't tell what property they're on, but there is a fair amount of screening from the trees, seasonal screening from the trees. I don't think we need to condition it personally, but I'm open to whatever.
Presidential.
Yes.
Senior-
Those houses.
This is senior living to the north, directly to the north.
There's, no development planned on that square out to the northeast?
No, that's all wetlands, so that would be protected.
Okay, so, and there's no sewer requirement for any of the storage structures?
No,
So we pretty much know those will be storage structures then?
that's how we would write the PUD, that only that used to be.
Only that, yes, okay.
Move to approve with the listed condition. Second.
Yeah, first by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Rubinsky. Any further discussion? Go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward to City Council 186. Right, moving on to item number 4, which is a public hearing.
This public hearing, I think
simply hope that it's at the end of the.
the public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Gazette. Planning Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. You invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only provide information in this matter, as well as your comments or concerns. We also ask you confine your testimony to the facts of the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing. Any questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by the staff until upcoming actionable items. You must be recognized by the Planning Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes.
And we will now open the public hearing on item number 4. Public hearing on a request for the conditional use permit to allow an electric vehicle fuel service station at 1240 Radisson Street, submitted by Michael Weaver on behalf of Watts Properties LLC property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a unique parcel. It's a little under 15,000 square feet. It's located very close to the Webster Avenue I-43 interchange. And then here's a street view of a vacant parcel. And what was former right of way as well. The future land use of this property is medium to high density. The areas to the west, north, and east are all commercial. And then to the south, low density residential. The zoning, however, even though the future land use mentions how residential, the zoning is light industrial right now. As well as the properties to the north and the east, the property to the south is low density residential, and then the properties to the west are commercial. So this is a request, because it's a conditional use permit, it doesn't have to match our comprehensive plan. The property is zoned light industrial, so it does need to meet the standards of that district, and in that district, fueling station is required or requires a conditional use permit. This is a little bit unique in the sense that it's for electric vehicles. Which we really, as far as I know, is relatively new, that hasn't, something we don't review too often. The applicant has provided 2 concept plans. These are just concepts. They do have to go through the site plan review process. They do need to comply with the municipal code. But this is really to establish that use so that they can move forward with their project planning and get everything in line regarding utilities to service the site. This initial concept is more based on solar as being the provider of getting the charging to the vehicles. And then in the future, this would be a future concept of what it could look like once utilities are provided, and he works with the utility companies, Wisconsin Public Service, to get those types of utilities there. There are certain criteria that do need to be met when it comes to conditional use permit. And that we reviewed it in accordance with that. Because of the use being a fueling station, there are some concerns that we do have. We want to make sure that vehicle storage is thought about, staffing, security. There is a residential area to the south, so we want to make sure that there is adequate buffering. And we do discuss that later on in our recommendation. We did send out notifications to property owners within 200 feet, and I have not received any questions or concerns regarding it. And that's all that I have.
All right, excellent. All right, now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Is there anyone looking to speak on this item? Is there anyone looking to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item. Item number 5. Consideration with possible action on a request for a conditional use permit to allow an electric vehicle fuel service station at 1240 Radisson Street, submitted by Michael Weber on behalf of Lots Properties LLC property owner.
So as I alluded to, we do recommend approval of the application, but there are some conditions that we would like to see added. Number 1 being that this site plan does have to comply with the Greenview Municipal Code. We would like to see 24/7 video surveillance be installed, so all portions of the site are monitored. 3, all vehicles parked on the property must be operable on public streets and registered. No outside storage is allowed. We do want to see a photometric lighting plan to make sure that there isn't any light spilling over onto neighboring properties. The buffer area to the south, we're stating that we want to make sure that it exceeds our requirements. I believe our requirement is 4 feet. So we want to increase that to 6 feet. That there's 90% opaque on a year-round basis. And that the conditional use is for electric vehicle fueling station only. And that any other fueling station such as gasoline would require a different conditional use permit application.
Any discussion or questions for staff?
With both of these concept plans, it looks like 4 to 8 vehicles. Depending on which one we charging it. That'd be accurate.
Well,
Am I looking-
this, so each space I think has the ability to, in this initial concept, can service.
Two.
2 in each space.
Okay.
Oh.
The applicant is here if you have more questions about,
We're just looking at total capacity.
Yeah.
Either option. It's not a lot, but.
And these aren't the site plans anyway, right?
No, it's
You're
just-
saying
yes,
these are just
yes.
a.
There appears to be, bike rental proposed in some of the drawing.
Yeah, but.
yeah, that, was an idea, yeah. Mhm. I think there was, he was looking at opportunities as far as different, electric. So these would be electric bikes that charge there. If, say, there was another business that was in the business of doing electric bike, rentals, they could lease their space.
Okay, so where on the second one, I know this is just, it's all just preliminary. But on the second one, which is down the road, those parking stalls is that where they're gonna be? The cars will be filled with electricity, or are they stalls for bike rental? I guess I just wanna make sure I'm looking at this.
Yeah, and actually with this, it's, you can't really tell on these drawings, but there's actually a canopy, like an open air overhead canopy that goes over the top, and then you park in it, and then in front would be the charging stations.
Okay.
Once the final concepts are done today, if this is approved, they come back through, or is this handled through with staff?
It would be be reviewed by staff to make sure it complies with bulk requirements, buffering. We're just, we can't do anything until the use gets
It's
approved.
Yeah.
But if with Act 67, if they meet all those criteria, there's really not a reason to hold it back.
We need more EV charging stations in the city.
No.
The only one I know of is the Hampton.
Higher asking. I don't know. There's a bunch of them, yeah.
That's too far away.
That's right, that isn't right, sorry, my bad, okay. So I'd certainly entertain a motion.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the condition.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fullwilder, I feel like I heard yours just a little bit faster. By Commissioner Daniels. Any further discussion? With a vote, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will go forward for city council for May 6th. Moving on to item number 6, which is our final public hearing.
This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Gazette. Planning Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information on this matter, as well as your comments or concerns. We ask that you confine your testimony to the facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public need to be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the planning commission in order to speak. Please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes.
And we will now open the public hearing on item number 6. Public hearing on a request for a planned unit development to permit residential, agricultural, retail, greenhouse, assembly hall, limited production and processing, restaurant, outdoor recreational, educational and renewable energy, solar, small wind uses at 3026 Nicolay Drive, submitted by Mark Valentine, applicant and property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this property is located in the northeast part of the city. It's located at the intersection of Church Road and Nicolay. It's a little over 5 acres in size. And it's currently the site of the Valentine Farm. The future land use for the property actually shows it as low to medium density housing. And then properties to the west and south are in our low density residential, and then it's buffered by some conservancy area. As far as zoning goes, the whole area is zoned low density residential. So just to kind of give some context about this request, because it's a little complicated. So the Valentines bought the property back in 2014. And so here's just an air photo of what it looked like at that time. And then we used our air photo to kind of take a look to see what happened over the course of time. And you can see how there's some gardens that are now on the property in 2017, then in 2020, expansion of gardens, some trees. And then to 2023, you get the growth that's going on this parcel. So over time, they have expanded the scale of their gardens from personal to be more of a commercial use. But then recently, they've also expanded the use of the parcel for education camps, farm tours. They have a retail stand, and then they posted various events as well on the site. Gardening and other horticulture uses are permitted accessory uses in the R1 district. However, that portion of the code that dictates accessory uses states that the accessory use or structure shall be incidental to and customarily associated with the principal use or structure served, and that the accessory use or structure shall be subordinate in area, extent, and purpose to the principal use or structure served. So keeping in mind this property is zoned low density residential. Staff was unaware of what was happening on the parcel. It was really only brought to our attention when the applicant came in to request a permit to install a high tunnel. And that's kind of what spearheaded this whole application and request. And the issue is that, like with his request for the high tunnel, is that we don't allow structures that large in our residential areas. And also we found that the use has exceeded that beyond what would be acceptable regarding the, as the code says, the area, extent, and purpose of the principal use. You know, now there's educational tours happening, which again is kind of going into this commercial educational. They've have the farm stand, which is a little bit more of commercial. And then incorporated ag, which we don't have any standards for in our code because we don't have an ag district. But we do see the value. We find that this particular use of the property is innovative. And through the use of a PUD, we believe we can balance what their intent is and also have it fit within the neighborhood. So we proposed we have our planning ordinance that's proposed. And here's just kind of a street view. This is looking at it from church. Their farm stand. It's a few years old, so it's changed. But when we were going through this process, we asked the applicant to show us their big picture idea. What is the whole goal for this property? What is your vision for it? So that when we write the PUD, we can do a mindful assessment of the proposed uses, and account for them, and then maybe not account for the ones that we simply don't support. So we've come up with a planning and development that we as staff feel comfortable with, is a good balance between their particular use and then the neighborhood surrounding them. When it comes, this is their overall plan. They did request, the home obviously to stay. They requested high tunnels, greenhouses. They did request some tiny homes, a barn. They wanted to do some renewable energy like solar panels and maybe like a wind turbine. But in that particular case with the renewable energy, our code already addresses those. So they would just have to comply with those sections of the code. So the PUD does not address that. We do talk about on the plan here, native plantings in the right of way. That would be a Department of Public Works matter. That's not something that the PUD can talk about. Let's see. Here are some examples of the buildings that are mentioned in their request. So this is a high tunnel. These would be an example of the tiny homes. They did request an addition to their home for a garage, which we don't really mention much in the PUD other than a size limit. They would just have to follow whatever the requirements are for an attached garage in the R1 district. And then the barn, we don't really specifically mention a barn, but we do talk about a separate accessory building. And then the way that we wrote this was in a manner that we felt comfortable doing today, but then as their business increases, they might have to come back and request some amendments to that plan. So there's some items in the PUD that I want to highlight. So number one being single family dwelling, limiting it to one per parcel. We really want to make sure that residential always be there. We don't want residential to leave that site and then it would just not have a use that you would traditionally see in the low density residential district. And then, so we only have the one principal use, that's the single family dwelling. Then there's the accessory uses. So the items that I have highlighted in green are kind of the new items that our code doesn't really address. So we identify as far as ag uses that we would be open to would be the production of plants, housing animals and animal husbandry that comply with our existing code, which is chapter 6 of the city code. Pasturing, horticulture, floriculture, and aquaponics. We are open to the educational camps and tours that they host, but we would like to limit it to a maximum of 28 individuals at one time. And that includes anybody that would be at that camp on that day, so any students, chaperones, teachers, like. We are allowing the farm stand retail to have one of those. And then the other items, the short-term rental and family daycare are other uses that anybody in the low density residential district would be able to do. There are some other ones in that district that we actually not allowing, but those were two that made sense. And then for the buildings, they did request the use of a greenhouse. We did put in some provisions regarding setbacks. So it would have to be set back 115 feet from Nicolay and Church. The maximum size would be 400 square feet, and we would limit that to 3. For the high tunnel, it would have the same setbacks, a minimum of 115 feet from Nicolay and Church. A maximum size, each one could be up to 2,200 square feet. And then the max number would be 3. And then some other items that we added to, I guess, alleviate some of the concerns that we have with the parcel is regarding restrooms and parking and the driveway. We're recommending that there be at least one ADA accessible bathroom built on the property. Currently, they're using porta potties. We're okay with porta potties being used in addition to the permanent bathroom. And that we are requiring that to be built within 18 months of approval of the PUD. And then when it comes to access and circulation and parking, we do have a standard in here for the educational component of it, which is similar to a requirement for like what a daycare center would be or a preschool. So they have to have 2 spaces per 3 employees, but currently they don't have any employees. And then 1 space per every 7 attendees based on capacity. They would have to provide 1 paved space, and then those other spaces have to be paved or of an acceptable material, and then that's identified in the PUD. We just don't want to have dust or gravel. That's something that we don't allow anywhere in the city, and so we want to be consistent with that. And then for the driveway, since we are looking at, a little bit more, it's commercial, we want to make sure that there aren't any issues regarding access onto the property if somebody's coming and going, that they can both travel safely on the property. So we want to see either a 22-foot wide driveway put in that's 2-way, or else a 14-foot wide 1-way. And then we do want to see the parking and the driveway installed within 1 year from the PUD getting improved. So the applicants did host a neighborhood meeting back on March 19th. It was a really crappy weather day that day. We had a really terrible snowstorm, ice storm. But we still had it, and there were 5 individuals that did come. We did send out notification to property owners within 400 feet, as well as the Alder Grant, the Red Smith Neighborhood Association, the Neighborhood Association. We've also received a number of comments back from the public regarding this, and John can share some of that. I don't know what the appropriate point is to share that, but we do have a number of comments. And I don't know if everybody's getting a packet of all of the comments. Okay.
49 in favor.
We can note there were 55 total comments, 49 were in favor, 3 were opposed. 2 said they were opposed, but if you read the actual context, it appears that they are in favor of this. And then we received 1 phone call on the matter who was opposed.
Is there anything else, John, that you would like to add?
For context sake, just want to stress what was asked in that conceptual plan, that staff, we asked, bring forth what your long-term vision is. Okay. What they want to do right now is put up a high tunnel and keep on using the uses they have at the moment. The issue is those uses go above and beyond R1. It's gotten to where now that we know that we have educational uses and farms and uses of the property, there has to be something else done with this as far as zoning, because R1 does not account for that. Now, staff feels that what is being done is PUD as far as what it provides to the overall community. For the idea of educational uses and retail uses. Now, some of those extra things that were asked, staff doesn't feel is appropriate at the time based off of staff reviewing the application and hearing feedback from folks at the neighborhood meeting. So the changes that are being asked, what's happening right now would be adding in high tunnels. And then staff is saying, because the changes go from a low density single family home to having this mix of the commercial elements with the educational use and the retail farmstead use, that is appropriate to make the drive entrance wider to accommodate cars in both a parking sense and an emergency sense. And is appropriate, like you would at a school or a park or an institution, to have a permanent facility on site for restrooms.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but in the PUD, you'll notice that we do not mention the tiny homes. So it's just one single family home. That's what, can go there. So I wanted to specifically make a comment to that. Rotational grazing, that's for whatever animals are permitted out there by our code. And then we don't really have much to say about it.
And I'll note that chapter 6 of the municipal code deals with animals. And so you've seen in the past where there's been some questions about conditional uses for rural residential for properties over 10 acres. Part of our code, they can have larger animals. Staff felt that there was a request to potentially have larger animals on site. We debated the idea of the merits of that on this site, knowing that a lot of this is land that's being used for plants, and there just isn't that much room necessarily for the grazing of larger animals. So staff did not include that in the PUD. When it comes to their existing animals, things like beekeeping and smaller mammals and chickens, that is chapter 6 of our code. You go to the clerk's office to get a permit. We are sticking with that portion of the code and not adding anything extra. If at some point in the future, as it comes to all these long-term goals, if it is demonstrated that the property can meet and maintain what's happening on the site, that works for not just property, but for the neighborhood as well. Staff would recommend at some point years on the road to look to potentially expand upon it, but we want to see that this can actually function well in the context of the additional uses and the additional buildings on site.
So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from people who would like to speak on this item. I do have a list. Some of the handwriting is readable and some is not, so I'll do my best. And if you could just come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And you can certainly ask questions, but they will not be answered until the actual item. And your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. So I have Clayton Vader.
Good evening, Chairperson and members of Commission. I'm Clayton Vader from 751 Frederick Court here in Green Bay. I'm an agricultural science teacher at Preble High School, and I'm here tonight to voice my strong support for the planned unit development proposed by Mark Valentine for 3026 Nicolay Drive. Several of my students have directly benefited from the experiences at Valentine Gardens. They have volunteered and gained valuable hands-on agricultural knowledge on the property. Many of my students have gone on to the fields such as environmental science, veterinary technology, veterinary medicine, and agricultural education. Proof of the positive, lasting impact of this opportunity. I have personally used the Valentine's animals and produce in my classroom to teach critical lessons in animal husbandry and sustainable farming practices. As a Greater Green Bay Chamber of Commerce Golden Apple Award winner and current vice president of the Wisconsin Association of Agricultural Educators, I am confident, I can confidently say that this project will be a tremendous investment in the education and future careers for our young people. The Valentine's vision blends agriculture, education, renewable energy, recreation, and business in a vibrant, sustainable model that aligns perfectly with the values of Green Bay. I respectfully urge you to approve this project and help support the next generation of leaders in agriculture and environmental stewardship. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Monica Bernardi. Oh, all right. Julia Nordike.
Hi, good evening. I'm Julia Nordike at 3221 Nicolay Drive. I'm coming here in the capacity of 3 roles. First of all, I'm their neighbor. I live about a half a mile down the road. I'm also in District 1, Alder Grants District. And then I also am a commissioner on the Green Bay Sustainability Commission. And then I'm also on the Green Bay Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee. As a member. So as their neighbor, they bring tremendous value to this neighborhood. They are really sharing their beautiful property with everyone. And it's honestly, it's a dream come true that I get to drive by and pick up farm fresh eggs or, chemical free produce. I mean, that's definitely something that is bringing access to those things for everybody around there. And I'd be hard pressed really to find someone in the neighborhood who hasn't stopped by at least once or walked by and really enjoyed their property. They have people taking pictures of their property because the flowers are so beautiful all the time. So it's really a great place to live near. And they're doing great things on their property from a neighborly perspective. As a sustainability commissioner, the commission is dedicated to the protection, stewardship, and improvement of the environment in the interest of the health, prosperity, and welfare of the Green Bay community for the present and future. And they're really hitting all those things on their property. They're really committed to being stewards of their property and taking out grass and putting in these amazing flowers that are attracting butterflies and birds. And things like that. We have a work group called Healthy Habitat for All. And so they often include a lot of wildlife habitat on their property. I think they're a designated pollinator garden community also. And then they also really support also the social aspects of the community. They are a community-centered site for agriculture. And they're really focused on bringing people there and sharing their property and getting people connected. And including the work group of the Sustainability Commission, we have a youth engagement work group also, which was actually spearheaded, and the seeds came from Sarah Valentine too. So really connecting youth into our being stewards of our environment. And then also a lot of their workshops and educational things. I mean, they're really actually not just their business, but they're supporting a lot of other small businesses from the greater community, whether it's like book authors or yoga teachers or anything like that. They are a CSA. They're a spot for a drop off for a greater CS, community supported agriculture drop off for farms just outside our region. As the Green Bay, on the Green Bay Planning Advisory Committee, you mentioned that you keep referring to low density residential in the current smart growth development plan of 2022. That is going to be changing quite soon. And then what we've really heard from the community, aside from connectivity, is it's time. Okay, is multi-use. So multi-use and bringing access. So they really bring a lot of value to this community beyond the neighborhood.
Okay, that was my time. It started late. No, you do yours. I know, that's awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Now this, I thought it was Justin, but is it Judith? Kren?
It's Justin Training.
I thought that's what it was, and then I was like, no, it looks like Judith to me, so.
Judith is fine. I'm Justin Training. I'm at Stone Style Prairie Gardens at 2325 Oak Ridge Circle in Depew. I have known the Valentines since 2011 when I purchased business. I've watched them do what they're doing on their property, and it is amazing. It's a vital asset for the community. They have the full support of Stone Style Prairie Gardens. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Dennis Mersky,
I didn't want to talk, I just thought I had to sign that paper.
are you, oh, you just had, are you sort of voice for or against?
No, I just,
No, okay, just want to say,
just here to
okay.
listen and
All right, thank you so
tell my
much.
sisters what I heard.
That's all right. Richard Wilson,
Thank you. I'm Richard Wilson. I live at 1315 South Van Buren Street in the village of Alloway. This is a unique property and a unique opportunity you have here. It is a wonderful resource. Support it, please. We talk about the farm camp. My grandson comes up from Milwaukee. I've done that for several summers. He loves the farm camp. He's very excited about it. And his younger sister is now old enough to attend. She will be coming this year for the first time, and she is very excited about it. This helps make Green Bay and the Green Bay area a better place to live. As I said, it's a unique property. Go with it. I support it very much. Thank you.
Joe Morgan.
My name is Joe Morgan. I'm president of Nicolay Drive Neighborhood Association. We don't doubt that these folks are doing something unique with the property, but it is right in the middle of Nicolay Drive neighborhood. And we for sure don't want to see this ever zoned commercial. This Nicolay Drive runs from the University of Wisconsin to the city limits north. It's the most expensive real estate in the city of Green Bay. You cannot buy a home on Nicolay Drive for less than $600,000. So they can do something, I suppose. You have to go by the law, but we really do not want to see this going that way. In a survey in June of 24, as reported on WLUK, Nicolay Drive ranked 81st in the United States as one of the most desirable places to live in the United States. So yes, I got it that they're there with their 5-acre lot, but I represent 240 neighbors on Nicolay Drive with the most expensive homes in the city, and we have great concerns as to what will happen to this property. I guess that's about it. So we want no commercial development there ever. What else did the survey say? Well, that's about it. So there's more than one side to this story. There's the neighbors that live on Nicolay Drive. We have concerns. We have a petition signed opposing it. I don't understand I should understand what happens from this committee and when it goes to City Hall. And I don't know what I'm dealing with. So if you can explain some of that to me, that would be fine too.
This is a public hearing, so you can speak to us, but we can't answer back.
Okay. So when is it? What do we go to city?
Again, this is a
Somebody's
public
got-
hearing. The actual item is coming up next.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So-
Thank you. Shelley Hatch.
Patro. Good evening. My name's Shelley Tatro. I live at 3410 Church Road. We have the property directly across the street from the Valentine property. We've built our house in 2003. At the time, that property was owned by someone else. We totally understood that it was being sold for a family garden to feed their family. 100% totally fine. I oppose what is going on right now. I think the concept is amazing. I think the Valentines are wonderful people. I have nothing against what they're trying to accomplish. The site of where it's taking place, I do not agree with. As mentioned earlier, there were many things that have taken place since the Valentines acquired the property that were done without the city's knowledge. it was mentioned that this wasn't brought to anyone's attention. I would like to say that we did indeed bring this to the attention of our prior alderperson and also animal control. We were unable to obtain any answers about plans, what's permitted, how they could have more than what's in the city code, and no one would provide any of those answers. So I have a ton of questions. I understand that you cannot answer those. I'm just going to highlight some of the main ones because I'm limited on time. Animals, city code. The code allows for 4 hens per parcel. There's been more than 4. At one point, there was a rooster that we had to call and complain about, so the rooster was removed. So again, this kind of leads to everything kind of keeps trickling down that isn't going through the proper channels, and I'm concerned with where it goes next. And is there proper special permits for more than what is allowed for in the city code? Because we are still City of Green Bay. Upkeep, and in the paperwork, talked about how things need to look. A lot's going to have to happen in order for it to meet this. I'm concerned about that. Farm equipment laying out, I have to look right across the street from my front door, and wheelbarrows, lawnmowers, piles of stuff. I get the smell from the animals in the summertime. We have had chicken feathers in our garage across the street because it blows across because they're moving their chickens around in the entire property. So it's not just, it's a fabulous place, fabulous concept. I understand that. But from a neighbor perspective across the street, I will tell you, I will close my windows because I don't want to smell it. I don't want to hear the goats bleating. I didn't buy a lot in the city of Green Bay and build our home for our family to live across the street from a farm. Groups of people. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Diane Harriman?
Didn't even know I signed up to talk, so I didn't have anything prepared, but I think I live in 2615 Nicolay. I have lived on Nicolay for almost 40 years. My husband, same husband, different dog. Nicolay is such a special place, and by all the accolades it's had through the years, it's beautiful. I'm sorry to hear that there were things happening there that are now being brought to light, but like you said, were brought up, but everybody says how beautiful it is. And, I'm sorry, I go past it and it looks like, piles of weeds, and it's just not kept up like Nicolay Drive is, and it just doesn't fit. And for that reason that it doesn't fit, and they want the dream farm, maybe they could take their PUD or whatever they're applying for and just find another lot. But this is not the spot for a commercial property, not in the middle of our residential neighborhood. The thing about Nicolay Drive is it's a different kind of neighborhood. It's not the square block. It's not, a section of town. We're just all right down the road, but we are a neighborhood and a close neighborhood. And there are going to be very few people that are going to be happy about anything. If they want to stay the same and just have the grass cut to what the code is in the city, and I think it's 11 inches or something like that at the highest. That's one thing, but it doesn't fit in our neighborhood, and it shouldn't be commercial, I'm darn sure. So I guess that's about it without having a script.
Okay. Thank you. And also Tom Hireman.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
My husband.
that's fine. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Oh, and then I also,
I'd like to speak. I'm online. Do you hear me?
yes, go ahead. State your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name's Eric Metzler. I'm at 3067 Nicolay, which means I'm a very close, not quite across the street, but very close neighbor. I haven't had any significant problems up until now. I like the concept of a lot of what they do, but I've always recognized that it always seemed a little bit out of place. But when my wife and I got the letter in the mail about this meeting and read about it, we had some very big concerns about some of the details, such as assembly hall, restaurant, and what is a small wind turbine? Things that would clearly impact the value of our home and perhaps be quite an eyesore. So I didn't hear mention tonight of restaurant or assembly hall. Does that mean that's been withdrawn? That request was withdrawn? Or is that still a consideration? Especially if they've been kind of bending the rules up until now, which I wasn't aware of. I hope we're being real careful about what is approved for their facility at this point. It's not just a home, it's a facility, I guess. So if you can at least comment on whether or not they're still pursuing a restaurant and an assembly hall, and what a small wind energy, what does that mean? Is that a sizable turbine, or what is that?
This is
That's all I have to say for now.
Okay.
We can answer what after the public.
After, right, no,
Yep.
right, okay. And then I do have both of you, I don't know if one or both of you would like to speak.
Yeah. You can go first on that.
Oh, you don't want to talk?
I can't, I'm just thinking, talk.
Can you hear me?
We have someone at the podium right now.
All right, sorry.
Okay.
So my name is Mark Valentine. We live at 3026 Nicolay Drive. I was just hoping to share a little bit. I was seeing those pictures of all the work that we've done over the years. I can understand we want to be really good neighbors. My wife and I are both teachers. We care a lot about our community and helping others. We're hard workers and we care a lot about the environment and learning about where our food comes from, the quality of our food. So I have a kind of a list of like the why behind what we're doing. We're growing organic food to make it available for, first off, our family. And we've gotten better at it where we've got excess food. And so because we're teachers and we don't make a lot of money, we have sold it in various capacities. We've also donated it to places like the Freedom House, the Sisters of St. Francis, our neighbors that we've shared food with. Our camps are just an evolution of us teaching. I did summer school for a long time, which is boring. Getting outside and being on the farm is wonderful, and to be able to share that with kids, to get them outside. Parents asked, can you do a farm camp for us? And so we started to do adult farm camps. We like the idea of restoring a sense of a family farm on that land that was once a family farm with gardens and a beautiful barn. We're trying to create a space for small groups of community to share ideas about growing healthy food and sustainable living and self-sufficiency. As teachers, we know the importance of small group sizes, so we don't, want to overdo things. We're working hard to protect the land, the air, and the soil with every decision we make. We don't apply chemicals and fertilizers because we know how that can end up in the Bay of Green Bay. So we work really hard on doing things organically. It's a lot more work to grow things that way. We're looking to provide opportunities through a small business to create some jobs. We could use the help to pay interns. We're working with NWTC and UWGB. So going into like who we have connections with, Jim, your grandsons came to our camp, Fennec and Gray. We have connections with UWGB's nutrition program. They brought a group of students out to learn about healthy food growing. We've had the Sisters of St. Francis there, connections with Holy Cross School up at the top of the hill who want to learn about beekeeping for their students and have connected. Sarah's brought her students from Red Smith School to our property. We've had hundreds of kids and adults over the years, but again, in manageable groups. For us, we're part of the SLO Local and Organic Food Co-op, the Farmers Union. We've had Girl Scouts at our farm. We've had, just got a letter in the mail from Clean Water Action Council thanking for our farm camp donations. We often donate camp spots. We've done it to St. John's, Resurrection, Clean Water Action Council. We've got a group of homeschooling students that are gonna come and visit. We're members of the Monarch Watch. We've taken hundreds of butterflies on our property, because we don't just have grass. We're members of the Xerces Society. There's an endangered bumblebee that is located in our area called the Rusty Patch Bumblebee, which has been sighted locally. And we grow plants that those bumblebees like. We have worked with Natural Resource Conservation Service, Fish and Wildlife Service. We oftentimes don't need to put any refuse out on the curb because we grow our own food and we don't have food waste. We compost. We take waste from UWGB because of composting. Let's see, we're working really hard to protect the soil and the water, and a lot of our neighbors who live on the water knows what happens in July, August, and September. It grows green because of algae from fertilizers from farms that don't practice farming the way we do. And we are trying to teach our camp kids about that because they don't learn it in schools. There's no other way for them to learn about the food choices they make, what they do to their lawns. We found dead bluebirds in our bluebird boxes because bluebirds eat insects off the ground. And when people put fertilizers and chemicals around their house and in their yards, that happens, that kills our wildlife. We're trying to provide nutritious organic food to our community, education, and a connection with land, animals, and plants. Thank you so much to both John and Dina for helping us navigate this.
Thank you.
We're waiting for the, there's someone on.
Here, Tom, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Tom Tedford. I live at 3416 Church Road. And I would just like to, you got to bear with me right now. I'm driving to into Kansas City, and we're coming back from a little vacation in Arizona. So it'll just give you an idea how important this is to us to actually call while we're driving down the highway. Now, I've heard a lot of people in support of the Valentine's farm, but they don't live there. One resident down the road on Nicolay Drive supported it out of the neighborhood. All the rest of them were from De Pere, Alloway, all over, not even in the city of Green Bay. You know, it's all about property values. It's not about what you can't make it about what the Valentines are trying to achieve. They're commendable, but it's where it's going to take place. It's going to be taking place across from where we live. That is where the whole argument is. It's not about what they're doing. What they're doing is admirable, but it's where they're doing it. We live in a residential area. Would anybody on the planning commission, would anybody in it, would any alderman, any person like that want to live across from a farmer's market? They would not. Basically, I'm just telling you, I am not in favor of expansion. I'm sorry. I am not. Again, I'm telling you, we're not against what the Valentines are trying to achieve. It is a wonderful thing. It's where it is. I'll leave it go at that. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
My name's Henry Connick. I live at N5680 Henry Court, Luxembourg, Wisconsin. I actually just came from the Clean Energy Advisory Committee for the Green Bay Area Public School District, so I'm not really prepared or have anything written. But I've been a student of Miss Valentine for 2 years, and then she's also taken me to the state envirothon where we won, as well as helped me with my environmental committees that I formed throughout the schools that I've been in, as well as the Green Bay Youth Engagement Working Group we just started up. And I have gained so much knowledge from going to her farms when we walk from like Red Smith School. I've gained so much knowledge from going there because it's so much more beneficial than looking at a screen of plants or a slideshow of how you garden. It's actually going there and having hands-on experiences. And I live in the country in a residential area, but in the country, and looking at the fields with so much just like dry wheat is just it's not a good sight to see. And so when I see a farm like Miss Valentine's and it's filled with flowers and an area for people to learn and people that are truly caring about the environment, it brings me a sense of joy. And I much rather look at that than any of the other farm fields. And I know there is a farm field kind of in that area. Additionally, I don't think I'd really characterize their farm as commercial, because commercial is a farm where you're using lots of inputs of water resources and fertilizers and pesticides used to create a profit. And they're not really using it to create a profit. They're using it to truly help the environment and create food for their family and educate the public. So I wouldn't really define it as commercial as well. And I just think it's a great place to be and a great area to have this site.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Crystal Brown. I live at 862 Hubbard Street here in Green Bay. I'm not a neighbor of the Valentines, but I've known them now for a few years, and increasingly so as we've gotten to interact through education and environmental initiatives. But I am a teacher, a substitute teacher in the school districts of Green Bay, De Pere, and Ashwaubenon. So although I'm not a neighbor, I'm responsible for helping take care of the children and the grandchildren of the neighbors in the neighborhood. I'm also a registered nurse working in psychiatric mental health. I've seen such a disparity in our connection with nature and the drastic impacts that that has on our mental health and wellness, as well as our integrity as a community. I've also been involved in our community garden program, where we try to prioritize access to growing food and vegetables for families sustaining themselves from the inner city components. Being a substitute teacher, I also see the children going through our school programs, and it's not consistent, the access to gardening education. Many of the children that live in Green Bay, as well as the adults, have no clue about that connection with food and their health and their community well-being too. We need more places like Valentine's Garden, and if not where they're at, then where? This city, this metropolitan area continues to grow in development. It continues to grow in commercial settings and strip malls. This is not the commercial that's being referred to. If anything, they should be a nonprofit 501c3, and we should be writing grants to get our kids to that. And the more that we pitch in as a community to support them, we can uplift it and make it even better, a communal space that our neighbors in that area can come and bring their families and interact as well. At some point, the neighbors in the community, they'll be turning over their property, they'll be selling it as they are reaching different ages of their life. So it'll be folks like me who'll be wanting to buy properties out there, or it'll be like the generation of children coming after me. But I assure you, as we continue to face environmental issues, as we continue to face food disparity between what is happening in our society, folks like myself, folks like my partner's children, we're not going to want to be in a community that is nothing but industry, not sustainable, and not community oriented. And in communities that invest in environmental sustainability, that invest in integrating green infrastructure, we can retain young people, we can promote growth in a sustainable, healthy way that can bring prosperity to all and give those skills to youth as well. This is not a CAFO or a mass ag farm, which we are surrounded by. I do some surveillance of that with my work with Clean Water Action Council. So we're trying to make sure that the water is safe to drink. They are trying to show the children and the adults of this community how to live in right relationship with the land and how to be good neighbors and good community members through that. So I give my full support as a business owner, as a teacher, and a community member for this.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this?
Well, we can go to the podium first. I'd like to speak after. Go ahead.
You could go ahead, the person, that's the applicant, so she can go last.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, my name is Roy Downham. I live on 3438 Church, so I'm another across the streeter. I've got a couple comments here. So I'm also involved in the environmental industry. I help to run a pollution control company, so I get it. I'm a fond, as Mark had said. I've also used monarchwatch.org to supply milkweed when I was making my own butterfly gardens, which I use as part of my own landscape. I think that what they're doing, or what the Valentines are doing, I agree, is innovative. It's awesome. It's not what the property is zoned for. It's not what we want in our neighborhood. Frankly, I think it's almost irresponsible of UWGB or NWC to partner up with someone when it is, it's very haphazard in this, how it's put together. I look at, we hear comments about the, how beautiful it looks. It doesn't look beautiful. It looks like a junkyard. We even earlier in this PowerPoint slide, we saw a screenshot of the Google Street View, but if you zoom in closer, there's coolers and wagons and wood piles and all blue tarps and all sorts of things piled against the house and the farm, and it's not beautiful. I feel that this topic is what's the law, what's the zoning. Doesn't matter if they're nice people or great teachers. That's not what we're here to talk about. I'm sure they're great teachers and they're great people, and what they're doing is commendable. And if they really want to do this, then they should sell this land and go buy 3 times as many acres someplace else. For the money they'll get on this waterfront location. The goat that they have is a nuisance. It's extremely loud. I hear it all the time. It's annoying. It's a nuisance. It's no different than a barking dog 22 hours a day. It's my understanding that more than one neighbor has had to, their animals have gotten loose. So if they want more animals, are they going to hire staff to keep these animals secure? What's the plan for this? I've also heard some things in regards to, the planning commission. They recommend they recommend bathrooms, they recommend driveways. Are you requiring this, or are you recommending this? That's just a question that I have. But my personal feel is that they've pushed the rules already. There's no evidence that that's going to stop, and that this is not what this property should be used for in this very, very beautiful neighborhood. I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Lensinger. I'm at 2828 Sussex Road, and I'm calling to speak on behalf of my husband and myself in support of this urban family farm. I want them to continue to grow this beautiful offering for this community. We look forward every week to see their offerings. They're always greeting us with kindness and respect. Please don't deny this beautiful organic community spotlight. We buy so many things from them. I'm going to list just a few that I can just name: honey, maple syrup, lip balm, soaps, peppers, onions, garlic, herbs, melons, asparagus, eggs, plants that they offered for free. And we have a huge spider plant that we now offer to our family because of you beautiful people. And tomatoes, cucumbers, peas, beans, lettuce. They have honeybees on site that I swear that the honeybees that come to our house are from them. They offer Friday children's camp classes to encourage them and let them educate them to who to be in the future. They need to know how to nurture this world. They offer family and adult cooking classes, super behind the scenes. You don't even know that they're there. Farm to table concept. They have made to order items. special touch, delivering off season if they have it within 36 hours or less if the product is available. They also offer space for locals to reserve their garden space to grow their own things and propagate and teach them how to do it. They're very clean. They're quiet. Okay, the goats. Have a barking dog 24/7 across from me where I am. You live in a neighborhood, get used to it. When USA builds behind y'all people, you'll have plenty more dogs. Don't worry. And so it's easy access, friendly. They're always with a smile. It's enriching for the community to know who and where your food and lovely products are offered from. Please, please don't take this away from our community. This is so important to us. Oh my gosh. Please grant the ability to continue, let them to build their better offerings and community wellness and gatherings. Valentine's literally fits their name. They are lovely people. When their neighbors are behind them, want to build behind USA, don't worry. Yep, you'll have loudness. Don't worry. But seriously, do not do this. Don't take this away from them. They're wonderful people. Please don't deny this organic community spotlight. They're just a time-sensitive, beautiful consideration for where we are right now. They're such a treasure here. They're not an eyesore. They're not intrusive. They're just trying to be what's right for this community and for our future, to build these beautiful children, to teach them and their families how to grow and cook and do you can have apartments across your street. Yeah, we're going to have those behind us. You name it. Yep. No, have a farm. Please. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate your time. I'm very passionate about this. Good evening. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on it? Is there anyone online that's wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone at all that would like to speak on this item?
Okay. Give it a try. My name is Sarah Valentine, property owner at 3026 Nicolay Drive. We are very thankful for all those who wrote letters and showed their support for the future of our farm. Almost 50 letters, and I know that those letters include support from two of our direct neighbors, the Heaths and the Saluskis, who live directly across from our driveway, to comment that there are direct neighbors who are in support of what we're doing and have shared their letters of support. We want to thank John Leroy and Dean Mooney for their time, and to all the planners for the care that they took in listening to us, considering our unique needs and working to draft a plan that respects and considers the area and neighbors around us while recognizing the benefits of our business brings to the community. We are proud to be growing food on this historic farm property. Last year, Mark left a classroom teaching position after 20 years of teaching to farm full-time. The classes that we offer and the food that we produce help nourish our community, but also support our family's livelihood. We believe in the economic, agricultural, and land conservation value of small farms. One of the many letters that was submitted in support today was sent from the executive director of the Wisconsin Farmers Union. I'm just going to read the last paragraph of that letter quickly. She wrote, as an organization, Wisconsin Farmers Union is concerned about preserving small-scale farms, and we want to stress the importance of these farms to your local food economy. We are losing one farm each day in Wisconsin. Local governments can help keep them in business, which is what is at stake in the zoning decision related to Valentine Gardens. Wisconsin Farmers Union supports the adoption of local ordinances allowing agricultural use in all zoning districts, and the adoption of local ordinances allowing for the building of small-scale farm infrastructure, such as high tunnels. That is from Julie Keown Bomer, the executive director of Wisconsin Farmers Union. We've had lots of farm campers who have told us that they would love, that they want to become farmers. The only way that any of them are going to be able to do this is on a small scale or an urban property. We know that our requests and the use of our property is unique. And we believe that what we offer to our community is extraordinary. Thank you for your time, and we are happy to answer any questions after the open session. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 7. Consideration with possible action for a planned unit development to permit residential, agricultural, retail, greenhouse, assembly hall, limited production and processing, restaurant, outdoor recreational, educational, and renewable energy, solar small wind uses at 3026 Nicolay Drive, submitted by Mark Valentine, applicant and property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess we can start with answering some of the questions that were raised during the public hearing. So there was a comment about what happens next, where does it go once it's, once the planning commission acts on this item? So it's gonna go to, city council, for a first reading and a second reading. I don't have the dates just because I don't have access to my computer. Like I was May 6th and May 20th. So those would be the dates that it would go to city councils. There was a comment about animal control. And regarding animal complaints in the past. That we don't, I guess our department zoning doesn't really have a lot of communication with animal control. I don't know if you want to say anything else. about
As
it.
far as complaints that were received on the property in the past, one was for a shed, it went through a variance back in 2016. Nothing to do with animal control. In 2021, there was a complaint that was received where officers from the police department went to the site. It was resolved in 1 day's time with the permits that were put forth at the time. So if there happens to be extra hens on site, it was never put forth as a complaint to the city. So one complaint 4 years ago, is all 1 day.
Okay.
And then as far as it goes, they can't have for a PUD because they're not.
They would have to fit in with chapter 6 of the municipal code, which is not our zoning code. It would, if the clerk's office permits it, it's be allowed. So there are some smaller animals that are allowed in the mammal class of animals that the clerk's office would see fit for approving. But planning does not take on that task as far as animal on the site. The only time we come into play is if you're asking for a larger animal. And if it's a larger animal, it goes into typically a rural residential code and acreage over 10 acres. This site does not have it, so no large animals.
There was a comment about why we didn't mention assembly hall, restaurant, small wind. So they had proposed a barn that would host events. We're not comfortable, our PUD does not address those events because of the parking. And because of the bathrooms. But there is this fine line between events that you as a resident, anybody in the city can host and have and do and parties and whatnot. So that, so there's that aspect, but then there's the commercial aspect. Where, you know, if you're having, he talks about the restaurant, like on-farm dinners that are open to the public, ticketed events. Those types of items are not specifically permitted by the code beyond what anybody else would be able to have on their property. Oh, small wind, that would be just generally covered with city code, standards for renewable energy. The restaurant isn't part of the PUD. It was part of the initial request of something that maybe they would like to do in the future. But again, we don't feel comfortable allowing that use at this time. Let's see. Oh, there was a comment about recommendations regarding bathrooms and parking. So those are staff's recommendations, and that's what we put in the planning and development regulation. And then planning commission would agree with those recommendations or not agree, whatever they decide to do. And then the recommendation of planning commission goes to city council, and city council makes final action. And then those are actually parts of the ordinance that would need to be enforced. And then we do have timelines built into them because we don't, we want to allow them a grace period to get into compliance with those items. I think that was all the questions, and then Alder Grant has her hand raised. Okay, she might have something to say, but anyway, our recommendation is to approve the request for the planning and development as drafted.
You know, Jenny had said something about as far as you would ask for what their total future plans, and that was what that drawing was. What they're asking for now is not that. They really just, what triggered this was the high tunnels.
Correct, but triggered that was the high tunnels and staff understanding that the uses have gone past your typical R1 standards. There were not complaints about this.
Right.
And so as
We're
a
trying to
staff,
bring them to compliance.
this is compliance. Staff felt that what was being asked for was appropriate in the PD context on the site. And so we wanted to hear from the applicants to what their great vision would be for the property. Mind you, these are going above and beyond what they're doing right now.
Right.
But if they happen to have just unlimited cash, what could you do? So we asked it, and
Right.
based off of staff discussions and feedback from the neighbor meeting, we felt it was appropriate to scale back on those requests and limit to what is presented in front of you right now.
Okay, so I feel like one of the things that's been throwing people a little bit is the word commercial.
Yeah.
I just want to be really clear that I'm understanding this and that everybody else here is going to understand it as well. That the commercial that we're talking about in this context is literally a farm stand, right? That it's already been there.
Yeah.
That it's already been in use. So it's not new commercial, it's not. It's stuff that's been happening.
Well, farm stand is one aspect of commercial, the education classes are commercial,
Okay.
the tours are commercial. Those are commercial activities, they drive people to the site.
Yeah, okay.
Whether it's a penny or $1 million.
Yeah, but we're not like talking about putting up a store.
And we're not changing
talking about-
zoning.
Correct.
Yeah,
at
we're
all.
talking about a farm stand.
Correct, and if you look at the PUD, I believe they have the size is limited. to
Okay.
those uses.
Okay.
Right, the farm stand size of the physical building, be it a stand, is limited to 150 square feet.
Okay, yeah.
With the PUD, does it follow the property or the applicant?
We go with the property if they continue to use it. This one, I don't know if it's specifically, we can call it out to the owners,
Right.
choose.
If you don't follow through on what you're doing with the use, it's a PUD code.
After a year, isn't it? Or did they expand that?
So you have 5 years to act on your
okay.
PUD. So in this instance, if they didn't cease operations, they could go for 5 years.
From me personally, I, can you help me understand the building appraisal? I'm looking at the area map across, or that's across.
That's church, it's across Church Road, behind the houses that are on Church Road, across from their driveway.
Yeah.
There's a huge
It's
farmland.
53 acres of farmland currently there. That's right off the, I mean, I'm not an expert, but isn't that farmland that's already there, right off the
Yes.
lane?
And also to the.
And to
And then,
the north.
yeah, this
It's
is,
So
an
that's,
absolutely absurd argument to make.
so I had other
Sorry.
commissioner looking at, it's 53, I guess, help me understand. What's different from this 53 acres versus that? I'm just for my personal use. for my-
John alluded to this, the city of Green Bay does not have an agricultural zoning, period.
Okay.
We have rural residential, we don't have agricultural, those are urban reserve areas. So to kind of give you an example, what you heard the beginning of the month, the 167 acres next to Sussex, that was empty land, but it's not meant to be empty land, and it has a zoning and land use behind it. This field as well, and I guess it's already been announced, Thursday night, there's a meeting for a neighborhood meeting for the potential development of that 55 acres that you're talking about. So, I mean, you can't look at it as a static use that, oh, there's a farm there, so we should not, you could say that, but we should allow farms everywhere. You have to kind of look at what the long range vision is for that property.
So, but again, my personal knowledge that those could become apartments at some point.
So
I mean, it could be something
zone
else.
low
It could
density
be
residential, likely homes.
Duplexes. Okay, I'm just asking for my personal, I just understand. Okay, thank you.
You should review this.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
yes.
sorry, yeah, but. Oh, hand raising, I see. Go ahead, Alder Grant.
Thank you. And I apologize, I did join the meeting late, but I do promise to watch the playback. I do want to reassure my residents of that. I just have a couple questions for the applicant, and I wanted to give them an opportunity to kind of address some of the resident concerns with your future plans. You know, can you kind of talk about a little bit how traffic, parking, are there plans for a barn or something to address some of the concerns of things around the property that could be in a barn instead to clean up some of the property? Just wanted to kind of touch on those things.
And Alder Grant, the floor is not open at this time, so I guess if you have questions of the applicant, we would have to open the floor.
I think it was
We
just
addressed
traffic and
those.
parking.
Traffic and, okay.
Was there anything else, Alder Grant?
To store the equipment.
Yeah, storage of the equipment. I'm sorry, before was public hearing, so I didn't think it was appropriate to ask questions during the public hearing.
No, and that's actually, with the public hearing, it's actually a good place to ask the questions, and then staff usually comes back during the actual item to answer the questions. But
Yeah, again, sorry, I joined late. I had a obligation, so I'm just getting on.
That's fine. Did we address both of those, or did they?
We addressed the parking.
Kind of the traffic and the parking,
Yeah.
that goes into the drive lane, which is being expanded.
Expanded.
Which I think also takes care of the parking aspect of it as well. I don't know, the barn, I don't think is something that's in scope currently. It is not.
As
So I know that's big about the additional ADA bathroom within 12 months. What was the driveway as well as 18 months? Is the driveway is 12?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was 12 and then the bathroom was 18. I mean, the driveway is fairly wide. There's room for parking on the side and you can drive down.
I think the safety concerns probably the
Yeah.
main thing. for
Turning
access.
around for access for
If you need a
fire.
fire, yeah.
Right.
we do, I'm sorry, in the PUD, we do have a section for a detached garage. So they could. Up to 1,000 square foot, but not to exceed the structural area of the principal use or structure served, whichever is less. And that's just a standard, single family home accessory building.
I believe so.
But
So you could also open the floor so the plan commission could talk to the petitioner and then you could have those questions.
I think we have our answers, if somebody feels inclined to.
Yeah, great.
I don't know, I feel like we've heard from a lot of people, a lot of great perspectives, and I think we've answered as many questions as we presently can. I feel comfortable moving forward.
Can we talk about the site, site standards, I guess, in terms of what is the code in terms of maintenance from the street? No, grass is one thing was brought up, but I believe we actually got rid of that particular part of the code.
Oh, right, so that request is in the right of way itself, and we don't have jurisdiction on that. If somebody wanted to ask to put in plantings in the right of way, as applicants or anybody else could be in contact with DPW to get asked that question.
And for code violations, it's the standard process. If they see something out of place, they just call and it's noted. Complaint driven, but when you look at the record, there was only one complaint in the last 4 years.
Correct.
And that was corrected within 1 day.
Correct.
I mean, I think we just need to acknowledge that there is some different opinions in terms of what beautiful is and what. And I think our code allows for a pretty wide range of how you would like to design your yard, grass, wildflower, whatever it may be. And I do not want to overburden anyone, much less somebody who's doing service in the community on how they're to mow their lawn, keep track of their weeds, which I think a lot of people here would agree that everything is a weed. There is a very big problem with monoculture in this area and everything that goes in the lawns to keep it that pristine condition. And I'm sure it hurts a lot of people to know what neighbors are doing to their yards in that area to keep that pristine look. So maybe open your eyes a little bit in terms of what others are trying to do to impact their neighborhood in positive ways. I'm a gardener myself, not to the scale at all of family here, but I know how much effort it takes to do what they're doing. And it really hurts me to hear some of the critiques that were lobbied at them tonight. Please be more neighborly. Please have a more open mind to who's in your community and what they're trying to do for it. So with that said, I will motion in favor of this item.
Thanks. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Well, I will say this, I have a drive route that I take and it's Nicolay Drive. It's been that for 30 years. I've driven down Nicolay when I want to take a ride. I go, so I remember this property before the Valentines bought it. And I drive by it on definitely a weekly basis. And to me, it looks like a working hobby farm. It looks like someone's working the property. It doesn't look like there's a bunch of garbage. Now I know there's one house down further on Nicolay. It does look like a lot of garbage. And this property doesn't look anything like that. Now I will say, you know, with the native pollinator garden they had that at their previous house. My children have attended their farm camp when they were little. I mean, the things that they do out there are really wonderful. And I guess personally, if I would love to live on Nicolay Drive near her, if you know someone just wants to give up their house for me, so. But right next door, I don't care. It's true, but one of the tiny houses they want in the future. But I really think that it's a beautiful property, and again, as Jake alluded to, that people have different views of beauty. It looks like it's a cared for property that people are doing things on. So I'm in favor of it as far as what they're looking for, because it's really what they've been doing for the last 11 years. I'm sure that they're, I mean, I guess I can't speak to what I don't think they were doing it to try to pull one over. I think right now they came to us and they wanted to get these high tunnels, and now we're getting them up to compliance so that they don't have these issues in the future. So.
I think to touch on that, I was looking back at historical maps here and looking at the farmhouse with farming on it since at least 1938. So for someone to buy it, think to themselves, why wouldn't they think they could farm there? You know, I don't like rule breakers, but it seems like one that could have easily been missed. Which is why I support this.
All right, so
I think it's Canberra.
Yeah, we got Vice Chair. Any further discussion? Okay, so motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will go forward then for the first readings to City Council for May 6th. Moving on to informational. Director's report. You know, have the report, is in your packet. You have any questions? Any projects that are happening? I see it beside you. I remember where it was. I got excited about it. Digging.
Oh, it
I
did?
got the machines working. I'm like, what's going on there?
Yeah, the farm. number.
Backing plan. Do we have a new contractor in line working for that? This is one that's pulled out. You know what I'm talking about? JBS. JBS.
Oh, so we've been working with Foreman, primary developer, they have phase one plan for the site that they always had access to. And then level 49, we were working on the smaller section of that site, and then for that, we reached out to the Foreman to see if they wanted to continue their plans to include that subject site. So yes, we're working with them.
Okay. So there has been a shift of players. It's my understanding someone pulled out, maybe a developer.
So Rebel 49.
Rebel 49, okay.
I think, I wouldn't say they pulled out necessarily, it was more of a, they weren't able to put a project together that was financially viable. They requested funds from the city, which were far and above what we could support.
Okay.
We shifted towards.
Gotcha.
So Roman's working on kind of the same model, so we want to keep the model the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so the model's the same.
Yep.
Okay, okay, thank you. That's what I was concerned. We're good, guys. It's still going.
Yeah, the newspaper, worded it in less than how to deal with it, isn't totally accurate.
What about merge? Is that still pushing for, or is it?
We actually just last week, had a visit from the Secretary of HUD. Came into town to look at some of our projects, so we were able to tour Voyagers and we went to the fort. And we also had the developers, from Merge come and speak on their projects, so. They had some holdups with some architectural plans, but they got on track at that point, and, they seem very positive moving forward. Yeah.
We're aiming to submit building plans by June.
Did they have a specific, like, in-ground date? I didn't look at that close at the, development agreement. Not really.
They're coming in with plans in June, probably looking to get foundations in by, just guessing here, but foundations in by the end of the fall. And kind of do the interior stuff. It's usually the kind of the sequence.
Yeah. They've been meeting with us regularly, so they're back on the table. It's good. Oh, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all good. Sorry, my bad. All right, date of the next meeting is
Well,
May 12th.
Before you do
2020. My
that,
bad.
not a director's report, but a planner's report. So I've been messing around with the, with your, public hearing statement.
Oh,
And I shall be reaching out to you again, probably this week, before the next meeting with something.
I'm just gonna record that on my phone. When I think of that, and just like play with the speaker, like.
If I could ever add some thoughts maybe on it, I mean, it'd be nice if it was shorter, but is it possible maybe on the screen to have like a couple reminders, like the 3-minute, ideally that the 3-minute.
Those bullet points,
there.
you can ask questions, they won't be
Say your name.
answered.
I feel like everybody comes and they've never been here before, and then you're in the moment.
There's
and
so
you have
many
to keep
rules.
Telling them the rules every
Right.
time.
Because it's confusing when you're.
Yeah, of course it is.
Well, and some of it would be, a lot of that whole opening paragraph that Jay was reading tonight is really educational. Like, you got 3 minutes, don't repeat yourselves, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But the second part is really just a couple lines, right? This is the item, anybody want to speak, anybody want to speak?
Oh, right.
So the thought process is likely keep the educational component, but read it as the first item of regular business. And then when you do the actual public hearings, it's just the, anybody willing to speak, anybody wants, because everybody should be in the room or online at that first point.
Yeah.
And we
And
can
then,
have a
to your
PowerPoint
point-
screen.
So wait, we only,
Yeah.
Just remind.
Wait, I'm already.
reminders.
Yeah, you're.
So I only have to read that once?
Right.
So back, like, the past, like 2 years ago, right? Because that's what we were doing
Right.
2 years ago. I was just reading it once.
Well, no, so you're reading for each.
3 years ago. Listen, at some point, I was only reading it once. And then all of a sudden you changed it on me.
We're gonna shrink it down, but other than this meeting, so there you go, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, sounds good.
Good enough.
All right. Date of the next meeting is May 12, 2025.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Minsky, second by Commissioner Wilder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.